Matter Symposium. My name's Leo Reese. I'm the Executive Director of LISC in Milwaukee, and I'm pleased to welcome you here today. I'm just very excited and very pleased with the response that we've had to this program, and actually the amount of diversity that we see in the audience today. I see a lot of our neighborhood partners in the audience. I see a lot of government officials represented. I see a lot of financial institutions. As a matter of fact, I know there's even a bank president in the audience, as well as some bank regulators in the audience. So I'm really pleased at the diversity of the attendance, and I think that diversity of attendance is also important for the discussion we're going to have, because there really is no one sector that by itself can advance an agenda for community change that we need to undertake here in Milwaukee. So today is an opportunity for learning and dialogue and a continuation of that process of transforming Milwaukee from where we've been to where we need to go. I'm very grateful to Marquette University and especially Mike Boucher for working with us on this event. And I'll be sharing some more remarks later in the program, so I'll keep my comments brief and turn the program over to Kathy Madden to say some welcoming remarks. Kathy is the chair of the LISC Advisory Board, and I have to tell you the story about how she came to LISC, because that story is noteworthy, because I think it's very revealing of the kind of person she is. I didn't have to recruit Kathy, despite she's got a pretty impressive background in business, but I didn't have to recruit her to the advisory board. She actually sought me out and sought LISC out, and the reason she did is because she wanted to be involved with an organization that is working to catalyze grassroots community change. And those of you who know and have met Kathy know that she's a very passionate and intense person, and I'm very grateful that she's decided to invest a lot of that energy in the work that we are about. She's given us countless hours of her time and talent to help move the community development industry forward in Milwaukee. And so I'm really pleased that she's the chair of my board and that she's here with us today to say some welcoming remarks. Kathy?
Good morning. All right, I'm short. There, how's that? On behalf of the LISC Board of Advisors, welcome to our inaugural Community Development Symposium. We do have a few LISC board members in the audience. Would you please stand up so we can recognize you? Thank you so much. Our hope for today's symposium is pretty straightforward, that all of us in this room will leave here with broader insight into our current community development landscape, and that ultimately today's discussions are going to be catalytic in focusing us on the power of collective impact. As we know all too well, people are working hard every day to improve Milwaukee's Central City neighborhoods. But despite all the passionate and dedicated people on the ground, the pace of change has not nearly been fast enough to keep up with the deteriorating economic conditions in our city. The recent series on poverty in the journal Sentinel has highlighted that plight and asked leaders to express their ideas and suggest solutions. And as I read and reread the journal responses to poverty, two words actually came to mind that are key. One is collaboration, and the other is trust. And I'd like to share a couple of stories about those. Let's start with collaboration. Actually, I'm going to go off script a little bit. You know, one of our issues is I think that we do need to articulate our arguments. We do need to articulate what the issues are, and we need to articulate responses to those. But in the end, it's all just a bunch of words. So the issue, the devil in the detail, is how do we make these words real? The devil is in the detail, and how do we do things differently? Well, when I think about collaboration, I think about innovation. And of course, we want to think about innovation. Who's ever going to say, yeah, you know, we tried that 3 times and it failed. Let's do that again. No, we want to innovate. We want to do things differently. So when I try to think of new solutions to things, I look at what other people have done, and just to kind of get my creative juices flowing. And not necessarily things that are directly related to what I'm trying to work on, but just kind of innovative approaches in general. So I'd like to share with you one approach that I think is particularly innovative that doesn't relate specifically to what we're talking about today, but hopefully it'll get kind of our creative juices thinking collectively, just get us moving this morning. And this example actually has to do with, well, I'm older, so I'm going to use the old-fashioned terms. It has to do with cool people cooperating and collaborating with nerds, if you will. The cool people in my example are video game players, and the nerds are biochemists. And the example that I'm going to share with you actually was in the Science Daily, September of 2011, so if you ever want to look it up. And what it has to do with is a number of biochemists had been working for over a decade, so over 10 years, trying to figure out a structure of an enzyme for an AIDS-like virus. Because if they could figure out the particle makeup of this particular enzyme, it would lead to development of an anti-AIDS drug. Very critical research, a lot of people working on it, could not figure it out. So finally, the University of Washington, they have a research department, and they said, well, figuring out this enzyme is like figuring out a puzzle, which is like a game. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a video game out of it. They put it online, and they put it out on the World Wide Web. I don't know if any of you heard about this. So this is kind of like, you know, your kids think you're not going to be home, so they send a text out to a couple of buddies, and they think a couple of buddies will come over, and pretty soon 200 kids come over along with the cops. Well, this is kind of what happened. So this went out on the World Wide Web. Thousands of game players started to work on this. So here we have these top scientists over a decade couldn't figure out this enzyme particle. Do you think that the video gamers figured out the enzyme particle makeup? Yes, they figured it out. Over 10 years for the scientists, what amount of time do you think it took these video gamers to figure this out? 3 weeks. And not only that, they figured out even more so that there's even additional research that can be done about AIDS. It was phenomenal. My hope is that that's how we can think. We can think in non-traditional ways, not the usual things, the usual people doing the same things. What that's going to look like, hopefully we'll start to touch on today. I don't know if any of you have had a chance to read Thomas Friedman's new book, That Used to Be Us, How America Fell Behind in the World It Invented, and How We Came Back. There is a cell phone ringing right now. That is my cell phone. So I apologize. So if you're irritated at the person who left their cell phone on interrupting the speaker, well, there you go. At any rate, back to serious material here. Thomas Friedman. I read this book. I like this book. Now I've lost all my credibility, but try it. You might like the book. And he talks about a lot of, I think, very interesting stories about what's happening in the world today, and particularly in the United States, of course. He talks about collaboration, and there's one key element of collaboration that he emphasizes that I would also like to emphasize today, and that is trust. Trust is what makes collaboration work. And I'm going to tell you a little story that deals with one of the largest organizations in the world and how trust plays a role in it. And that organization is the United States Army. In the book, Friedman talks to us about General Martin Dempsey, who is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, America's top military officer. In the summer of 2008, he was an acting commander, and he went to visit a 26-year-old U.S. Army captain stationed inside Afghanistan. From this captain's little forward base, this captain had access to intelligence information from the lowest tactical level up to the national level. And this captain had the authority to order joint fire from air and artillery. The reality today, Dempsey tells us, is that when a general officer speaks to a captain, that general officer has almost never used any of the communication systems, intelligence, assets or weapon systems that the captain has. So when the general or colonel goes down there and tries to be the leader, and the captain looks at him, the captain knows that that guy has never done the job he is doing, nothing close. So how does the leader retain his legitimacy in his big organization? Well, he has to recognize that authority is built from the bottom up, not the top down telling people. Even training of new recruits has had to change from just a decade ago in the Army. Basic training still exists, and I'm sure all its forms, but now they also have outcomes-based training, and trust is one of those key outcomes. Think of what that captain has at his disposal. Let's hope he doesn't have a bad day, his girlfriend breaks up with him or something, and he pushes a button, but anyway, but think of how you have to trust that person. The bottom line, Dempsey tells us, is collaboration is important on the battlefield, and trust is the cement of collaboration. And trust is a prerequisite for creativity. You will never be creative if you think what you have to say will be discounted. So creativity cannot happen without trust. Communication cannot happen without trust. And collaboration cannot happen without trust. It is the essential driver. So as we listen to today's comments, let's try to picture how we can have greater impact by working differently together. Let's also trust that what people are saying is shared with genuine sincerity and the intent to create change in smarter, faster, more collaborative ways. Today you will hear some concrete ideas about what might be done to address the current stalemate in our community development efforts, and you will also have a chance to participate in the development of a new vision for how that could be done. Our hope is that this process will help get us all on the same page so that we'll move forward together for a better Milwaukee. Thank you. I'd now like to introduce Mike Boucher. Mike joined Marquette University in 2007 after an award-winning 25-year career at WTMJ-TV in Milwaukee. He is a distinguished fellow in law and public policy at Marquette University Law School, and he is also a contributing anchor and reporter for WISN-TV. We are delighted to have him serve as a master facilitator for our day. Please join me in welcoming Mike Boucher.
Good morning. On behalf of all of us here at Marquette University Law School, welcome to our beautiful new home, Eckstein Hall. When the folks at LISC, Chris Boston and others, and I began talking about an event that LISC wanted to do, I said Marquette Law School would be the perfect place to hold it. And that's because in addition to what we do on a daily basis here, which is give our students a top-notch legal education and produce important research, we see ourselves as having another important role in this community, valuable role, and that is as a community convener, a place where news and policy makers come, where the people come to talk about the issues that affect all of us. We consider ourselves to be forward-looking, solution-oriented. We encourage our guests, the people we invite into this law school, to interact with our audiences. And so what we're about to do today is just absolutely a perfect fit for us and this mission that we consider an important part of the future of Marquette University Law School. We want to be a place of serious civil discourse, and we expect that to happen here today. Today you will have a chance to hear some perspective on where we are in community development efforts in Milwaukee and where we need to be, how we might do better. And we will have a chance to hear your thoughts. You'll have a chance to interact with the panel that we have here today. We want this to be the start of a dialogue, not just a one-time event where we all get together, we feel good about things leaving here, and it just sort of dies. We want it to be more than that, so this is the first step toward a continuing conversation. We feel that's important because I think each and every one of us in this room, every one of us who calls the city of Milwaukee home, my wife and I have lived here a long time in the city of Milwaukee, we know that our city is only as vibrant, only as healthy as our neighborhoods. And we also know we face serious challenges. Catherine mentioned the recent series of pieces in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel looking at poverty. What do we do to alleviate poverty in this community?